When we look in the water, when I always like to imagine is so before all the boats and before we had all of the skyscrapers and our paved roads, a lot of these waterways, the Coast Salish people, we saw them as our highway. So the canoe culture was a very vital part of our living. So Coast Salish starts at the southwestern tip of the Vancouver Islands. It's in the lower mainland here, and it's also down into Washington State. We have similar dialects, but even within Vancouver alone, the two dialects of the Coast Salish family of languages is the Squamish, which is spoken by the Squamish people, and the other dialect is Hunkaminam. It's spoken by the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, Katzie, Kwantlen, Kwikwetlam, and Tawasin peoples, and also Kikate. A lot of my focus has been learning about the names of the plants, the different kinds of ways that we also look at the seasons. For example, April, it's the time when the salmonberry shoots are coming out. Now we're in July. The translation for July is the time when you barbecue meat and fish. So our seasons and our worldview was very reliant on the plants and how we would gather them and harvest them and process. Another kind of part of my teachings that I've been passed down is that the oldest beings on the planet are the rocks, our grandfathers, and the second oldest beings on the planet are the trees and plants, and those we see them as our grandmothers. It's a good thing to be outside, and we can think of it like we're visiting our grandparents' home. The red cedar tree, it's considered the tree of life. Every part of it could be used. We had a waterproof cedar weaving, and so that would have other, not only the red cedar, the inner bark, but sometimes nettles and other fibers would be spun into it. And so we'd have these large shawls and also large cedar hats, and those would be woven very tightly so it would become waterproof. The inner bark, that was woven for things like the baskets and clothing. Inner bark could also be made into an infant basket. Instead of burials like we know today in a cemetery, often there was these posts that would hold a canoe, or the trees would also hold these special kind of single-person size canoes, and those would be burials. They might have certain belongings if they were maybe weavers, or they were fishers and hunters. They might have things buried with them, and that would be helping them go to the other side. So we did really believe this importance of when people pass on, still honoring their existence and helping them still be honored in the spirit world and their afterlife. Katsalano lived in Stanley Park. Before it was called Kwai. Today it's where Lumberman's Arch is located. Near their home was a 9-foot deep shell midden. So they were paving the roads, and literally all of the roads within Stanley Park, they contained the shell midden. And so a lot of Indigenous cultures' land claims are showing our deep history, us being here since time immemorial. We can't dig up the gravel roads today and find the shell midden that's literally inside the pavement. We can't unearth them anymore to show, yes, it was 12,000 years ago we had a village site with shell middens. Even within my grandmother's lifetime, she has areas that she would remember going, and there were so many salmon that it looked like you could walk across the water without falling in because there were so many salmon. It's like really upsetting to think within only a few generations, so within her lifetime it becomes this very scary idea, will we have enough salmon? Will we be able to go and harvest things that we've been doing since the beginning of time? So our big hope, especially within her lifetime, that we can see areas that have a much stronger salmon population come back, because they're a really vital part to a lot of Coast Salish peoples.